Welcome to the Media Odyssey Podcast. That is Marion Ranchet.
And that is Shapiro.
And we've got a really special episode of the podcast this week. We've got a great guest from Tubi. But first, let's jump into why we are bringing Tubi on the pod. Marion, you know, you and I talk about this a lot. I just actually have given a couple of presentations about this recently. This melding that I think we both see of mainstream traditional media, or trad media, as I like to say, and the creator economy into this kind of single ecosystem that the consumer they turn on a screen. They don't really differentiate as much as they used to between social media and mainstream media, because their favorite celebrities very often, especially if they're under the age of 40, tend to be creators.
No.
I think it's a little bit more prevalent in the US. You know, what are you seeing on your end of the Atlantic when it comes to this kind of stuff?
I'd say, whether we're looking at US or Europe, I think this year has been instrumental in that shift, right? Because we've been chatting, you and I, for years about, finding ways to bridge that gap. And you hear it from traditional media and you hear it from creators, right? So I listened to Colleen and Samir last year, and they were looking at, what's the way of building that bridge between the two. And I think this year, a lot of companies have done just that. But very often, I agree with you, more on your side of the ocean than us. Although I will say there's been a lot of trials and errors, but perhaps what we haven't seen is companies investing in staffing the organization to actually lead that conversation, right? Because there's a difference between licensing a few creators' content here and there and actually building a program around it.
That's a really excellent point, because you see Netflix. Even though it's interesting, Ted Sarandos will say, YouTube's for wasting time, and then he keeps signing every single YouTuber he can get his hands
Yeah.
on. And then they just announced that they're going to put Spotify video podcasts on the platform, and I've heard they're even going more aggressive than that, going out to the podcasting world. So it does feel like there's creatordom being injected. But to your point, there's a difference between kind of sprinkling creatordom on top of your mainstream platform and actually building a creator-friendly ecosystem. And that's what we're going to talk to Tubi about. And something and it's not just because we have somebody from Tubi on the pod this week. I have said this on the pod recently. I've said this many times. Tubi, especially when it comes to the AVOD fast world, seems to zag when everybody else zigs, right? They're mostly on demand, where everybody else is mostly linear. They started as a tech platform, not a content platform, and have reverse engineered. And that's why they're, I think, really leading the pack as far as the fast folks go from an advertising standpoint. And then just this week on Fox's earnings call, they announced that they had their first profitable quarter ever. So I feel like they're a house of innovation. Anjali Sud, who runs the platform, is really friggin' brilliant, ex of Vimeo. And I just feel like they're leading innovation in the AVOD space. There are obviously, you have other players in the premium space, and then you have YouTube as well. That's why I'm really excited to have their general manager of creator content and business joining us today. Rich Bloom, do you want to join us on the pod here?
Hello, great to be here today.
Thanks for
Rich.
joining us. So what the fuck is a GM of creator business at Tubi, if you don't mind me asking?
It's a good question. So it really reflects Tubi taking, I think, a unique approach with creator. So we look at creator as not just being a subset of content acquisition. We think about really creating a scalable creator ecosystem here. So my team, which is a new team, I've been here for about 6 months and we're staffing up, is responsible for launching this creator program. And we really see it cutting across, in addition to content, product. We're starting to actually build products for creators, both behind the scenes and for the viewer experience, that are specific for creators, marketing, operations. So we are taking a unique approach. I report into Anjali, our CEO, and we do a lot of cross-functional work to really create a scalable, full-fledged creator program, as opposed to simply licensing a group of creator content.
And Evan mentioned at the top that you of all of the platforms operating in free streaming, you had that edge, right? You were already very much leaning into communities, that you were very genre based. So I think you understand fandom and passion really well, which I'm assuming you decided to invest in that program not because it's hype or anything, but because you've seen potentially numbers from the way people consume or behave on your platform that led you to believe that they wanted more of a connection than that kind of one to many relationship that we traditionally have in mainstream media.
Yes, yeah, and let me start. I can just give like a quick Tubi overview because I think it's helpful to talk about how we think about fandom and serve
Sure.
fandom. So Tubi, like Evan said, we've been around for more than 10 years. We've been part of Fox for about 5 years, and we are, we are really a AVOD, an ad-supported video on demand platform. About 95% of our viewing time comes from on-demand video. About 5% is linear fast, and that's really
Mhm.
by design. We want to, we're building for an audience that's leaning in and really intentional. We have over 100 million monthly active users on the platform. We stream over a billion hours a month. We account for about 2.2% of viewing time in the US. So we have great scale. And then one of our biggest differentiators is the breadth and depth of our library. So we have over 300,000 Hollywood movies and TV shows, and then now over 10,000 episodes of creator
Wow.
content, and over 400 originals. And about 1 in 4 viewers will watch an original a month. So
Mm.
even though it counts for a small amount of our library, we're getting a lot of engagement there. But in general, we're not a hit-driven business. We have some
Yes.
hits, but it's taking that huge library that's really diverse, and then we have really good technology, and that's where like our Silicon Valley founding really helps. We have great technology using ML, AI to surface the right content to the right viewer. And we talk a lot about creating rabbit holes of fandom
Yeah.
um, in all these different disparate areas. There's some,
Yeah, yeah, it seems like other platforms are very afraid of niche. Like, you say the word niche
Mm.
at a lot of these streaming platforms, and they, like,
yeah,
get hives.
Yeah.
But you embrace the niche. You embrace the kind of hyper fandom around not hyper niches, but people who appreciate certain types of content. Yeah?
we do. And so like, I mean, we have fandoms around, broad areas, and then and then there's niches where we do really well, and we'll continue to add to those rabbit holes by adding more content. And that's where creators come in. We saw 70% of Gen Z says they want more original unique IP, and the number one place they point to for that is
Mm.
creators. One of the big aha moments was last year. We had our most successful original ever was a movie called Sidelined. It was based on a Wattpad novel,
Oh,
and it
wow.
had this built-in fan base from Wattpad. And then we cast Noah Beck in the lead role in his
Yeah.
first acting role, and he wanted to make the transition. And Noah Beck is a really big TikTok star originally, who now has transitioned from that movie into an acting career. And that movie drove, it was most successful by almost every measure, including driving a lot of new audience to us and a lot of returning viewers to us, especially Gen Z viewers. We also had a program last year called Studios, where Issa Rae worked with us, and it was this fan fueled process where 2,000 creators submitted ideas, and between us and fan voting, we picked 4 projects to greenlight as to be originals, and those are, some of them are out and some of them are coming out. But we saw so much engagement with that. So the signals from some of what we had released, clear signals we got from our Gen Z audience, and about 55% of our audience is Gen Z and millennial, which
Yeah.
skews much younger, um, for especially an ad-supported streaming platform. And we have a really diverse audience, very multicultural, which is something we also really lean into. So all that led us to believe that we had these signals. It wasn't just hype. that our audience really wanted creator content. And that's really what led to me getting a job and us moving forward with this program a few months ago.
And when you started working with creators, anything that you've noticed that you were perhaps expecting or not? Like, we were at MIPCOM a few weeks back, and you still feel that there's a bit of a misunderstanding as to the businesses that are behind those creators. We're still hearing this thing. It's just kids in their room, on YouTube. What can you tell about the creators that came through your door, whether that's those 4 projects you chose, or some of the partnership that you've signed ever since?
Yeah, so we launched the program in the middle of June. So it's been about 4.5 months. We started with 6 creators and a few hundred episodes of content. We're now up to over 100 creators and over 10,000 episodes of
Wow.
content. And so, we're working with professional creators. We're working with creators who are generally already creating longer form content.
Yeah,
We're
now let's take a beat on that phrase.
yeah,
Professional creator is
Yeah.
like an oxymoron to most of mainstream media, but in reality, when you look at the work and the revenue that these folks generate,
Yeah.
it is professional creator. That's a real legitimate phrase. So I'm
yeah,
sorry I interrupted you, but I wanted to like take that beat and circle that phrase.
yeah. And I mean, there's a huge population of professional creators. Like this is their job. A lot of them have teams around them. I mean,
You're
in
talking to two right now, by
it,
the
that's right.
way.
And so look, we think of creators they are the media startups of today, without
Yeah.
a doubt. They produce content, they own IP, uh, they have these huge fandoms, they have different ways to they own or rent their audience, but they have access, they have this audience and built-in fandom. They have multiple points of distribution. Increasingly, they're media companies.
Yeah.
So what we've seen is, I'd say the first thing, we started by bringing on creators to distribute content to us on a non-exclusive basis that they were already creating for other platforms. And because we're focused on content that's 15 minutes or longer, it's, they're for many of them, their primary, or at least the main platform is YouTube. And we were, our value proposition was, you can take the content you're already making, give us your catalog of content if it's evergreen, and we're mostly focused on evergreen content, and then, refresh the content on an ongoing basis. Um, it requires a little bit of editing work. We want to take out things like calls to action of things like subscribe to my channel. That
Yeah.
doesn't make sense on a streaming platform. Um, but it's pretty low lift. And I would say, we really quickly got past that first question of, are creators going to want to go through the process of working with Tubi, and we've had a huge amount of demand, and we've been really successful in
But
getting a
also
lot of
the
creators on the
question of will
platform.
it work? So you were able to test, with that first batch of content to see what the adoption rate was from your users too, yeah?
Yeah, so we really wanted to see, do creators want this? And once we get this content on the platform, how are our viewers going to react to it? And so, now we can confidently say we have enough data that this content is really resonating with our audience. So in general, what we're seeing are the viewers watching this content and new viewers coming in, where the first thing they watch is creator content, um, skew younger from our already pretty
Yeah.
young audience. And also the retention of these viewers is actually higher. The other thing we see is viewers who start by watching creator. One of the other questions was going to be, when we talk about rabbit holes, it was, are we creating rabbit holes of just creator content? And the answer to that in general is no. What we're seeing we're seeing somebody might come in to watch a video from Watcher, for instance, who's a great creator in like the paranormal and horror space, and then they watch a to-be original horror movie. And we actually see over time the cohorts of viewers who start out watching creator content continue to watch creator content, but watch an increasing amount of traditional Hollywood movies and series. So we're creating these rabbit holes where viewers are watching this mix of creator content and traditional Hollywood content. And that's really the bet we're making. There might be some viewers who just want to watch this unique curated group of creator content, but in general, most of them want this mix of Hollywood and creator content. And it's just one more sign to us that this delineation between creator content and Hollywood is becoming less and less meaningful for
Yeah.
people in general, and especially younger people.
Well, and especially when you look at so that, what you're saying is the fan basically, code switches.
Yeah.
They come in maybe for creator and then switch to mainstream, or they come in for a mainstream movie and then switch to creator, and that line gets blurrier and blurrier. I think that's being accelerated by the kinds of content that you're announcing now with your creators, which isn't just back catalog of videos from their YouTube channel,
True.
Yeah.
but it's original series, and some of them are continuations of series, or in some cases, like a movie kind of version of a series they've been making on YouTube. But these are series. These are serialized
Yeah.
narrative stories very often, or they're feature films
Films. Yeah.
very often. And it seems like the line gets even blurrier as they become much more like mainstream directors, producers, actors, writers. And is your sense in working with them that you're seeing that the kind of professionalism meet in the middle there?
Yeah. I mean, look, the production quality of content from creators has been increasing and is only going to get better. Um, and we're working with creators. We just announced a few different projects where we're bringing in original exclusive content to
Yeah,
Tubi, which was
With Kevin Hart and his production company, you announced a huge slate, right?
yeah. So the first,
4
yeah,
projects?
four projects, two which are named. One is Kinigra Deon, who's this
Oh, I
amazing
love her.
creator who creates scripted content. She has a studio in Alabama. Her story is amazing. She moved to LA as she started getting into the space. Then when she had a certain amount of success, she moved back to Alabama because she was like, I can have my own studio there and operate there. And she makes these amazing scripted programs. She was one of our launch partners, and we saw a lot of success with her content. And then uh, Hartbeat, Kevin Hart's studio, was circling around this idea in a similar way to us, and we already do a lot of work with them on the traditional side. So we're partnering on the slate um, with Kinigra Deon, and then the second creator is 85 South, who are these amazing creators, really, really funny, really hardcore built-in following. And then there's two other projects that we're going to collaborate and we're in the process of adding those creators. Um, and look, and then we've also announced this new slate of series, mostly scripted
Well,
series.
actually, so let's take a beat there.
We're announcing it's seven series.
Wow.
And look, our approach in general to how we're doing these is it's not like a traditional original. So we are there a lot of times streaming service or someone else will take a creator, match them up with a production company, and basically make a traditional Hollywood production featuring creators.
Right.
What we're doing with this slate is we're basically we're matching with creators that are a good fit. We either first see them perform well, like Kinigra Deon on the platform with non-exclusive content, or it's a new creator where we just see it like alignment. In general, they have an idea, and that idea typically is either I've been making this thing and I want on a different platform and I want to up level it, or there's something new I want to make. And in general, they don't want to finance it. But what they do want is creative control and to continue to have ownership of their IP. And usually they have to decide. And we're trying to give them an option that's different. And we're not just doing it out of the kindness of our hearts. We think it's a smart business decision and a way to keep creators engaged and incentivized and happy to be working with us. And frankly, a competitive advantage and just the thing that makes sense. So one of the reasons why we want to work with creators is they've proven they know what their fans want, and we believe what broader fans that we can bring them want. So our approach is to basically, we're making a bet on the creator, their idea. we're giving them money to fund production for it, and it's generally in the form of a minimum guarantee against a rev share, in most cases. So they know that they're going to get funding for it. They also have some upside and incentive if it performs really well. And we're generally doing that in exchange for an exclusive window. And so we're doing the deal, we're giving them a delivery date. They're going and making it on their own. We're working with creators that have the capability with them and their team to
So
produce the
you're
content.
not doing rounds and rounds of notes with them?
There's no notes. Like,
Wow.
if we get something delivered and it's
Wow, that
far
phrase
from,
just
yeah,
sent chills through Hollywood.
yeah,
No notes.
no
Yeah, I'd
notes.
love to hear the timing of it all as well, because Hollywood is what, 2-3 years to get anything
Yeah,
done.
yeah. Yeah, what is
Most
the
Yeah.
turnaround
yeah.
on some of these projects? That's a good
Yeah,
question.
so look, I mean, I started in the middle of June. I started in the end of April. We launched the creator program in the middle of June. We had our first original, actually, our first exclusive launch um, on October 30th, a series called Bloodsuckers Origin, by this amazing creator, Rock Squad, who had already been on our platform with library content, was about to go in production on it. And we did a deal with them less than 3 months before it went live on the platform. So we're,
They were already moving train at that point, so
yeah,
you
but they weren't producing yet. They had their script,
Oh, really?
and they had ideas about how to up level the production, and we allowed them to do it by coming in. Um, and with these other projects, again, we've only been doing this for about 4.5 months. We have another project is with Kev on Stage, who's a really creator who's been around for a long time, who has
It's massive.
a amazing, he's had shows on streaming platforms, on TV. At his core, has these really strong communities on YouTube and social, and he has a long history of creating premium content that's generally behind a paywall. He has his own Patreon. I was previously at Vimeo running Vimeo OTT. He ran his own subscription VOD channel there. So he typically, because of the level of work he wants to do, would put his content behind a paywall. And this is actually the first time he's making premium content that's going to be available on a free streaming platform, which is also another reason why creators are finding it appealing to work with us, in that it gives them the ability to be on a streaming platform, up level the work they're doing, but it's accessible to their fans in all the territories where they operate without someone, we're completely free. There's no paid tier, no friction. Someone can sign in or not sign in. So that was another thing that was really appealing to Kevin and others.
Yeah, and something about it's worth mentioning about Tubi is, unlike OEM operated fast platforms, who shall go nameless, the only place you can get those fast platforms is on those OEMs, whereas Tubi is available ubiquitously across all OEMs, at least in the US, and a couple of other territories as well, UK. And so you have basically ubiquitous distribution in these territories.
Yes. Yeah. And one of the advantages we have is, we've been around long enough that we have really good real estate and big
Yeah.
audiences, which is a key thing, as a streaming platform, to have that real estate on CTV.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like, I used to ask this question at the beginning of every semester at NYU when I was teaching there, which was who had watched certain platforms. And I watched the rise of Tubi. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a few years ago, nobody knew what the hell it was. And then and over the last couple of semesters, and now it's closer to 100% of the room of that target audience, which I think speaks to your demographic points from earlier. By the way, you should note, 55%, millennials and Gen Z. That's a huge. That's higher than the United States.
Yes. Yeah. It's higher.
So
Yes.
you
That's
over-index for those generations. It's kind of impressive.
a lot of
Yeah. That's
companies would want that audience, and I'm assuming advertisers as well, right? So, if I can double click on the way you work with creators, is the fact that you are an ad supported business, how does that play? I mean, these guys don't need to be preached on the value of advertising. They're often coming from social media and YouTube. But you guys, you have a rather low ad load, right? I think it's in comparison to the rest of the industry. I think we're
Yeah.
talking 4 to 6
Yeah.
Yeah.
per
So
hour. But so what are you do? What you often say is that you're very data driven, and that you can, even if you have a lower ad load, you're precise, right? You're nothing beats that from other services. So how are you working with those creators? Do you see scenarios where you could do more experiential
Or
formats,
branded.
etc.?
Yeah.
um, I think when it comes to advertising, our initial plan was really we're going to launch this creator program, start to build scale, and then we're running advertising against it, but start to be have specific creator opportunities for our advertisers.
Mm.
What's happened is since announcing this program, we've had an amazing amount of inbound interest of the
Yeah, I'm
idea.
sure.
We have this sort of premium experience
I'm
with
surprised.
a curated group of creators. So we're expediting that. We're accelerating that process a little bit. And we'll see. I mean, that, we're, already, ads can be targeted to creator content. All this content, the way this content lives on Tubi, there's a home for it in an area on the homepage called the Creatorverse, where all this
Yes.
content lives and a lot of people discover it there. But it's also living side by side traditional Hollywood content in its corresponding
Genre.
genres.
Mm.
So it's getting a lot of exposure. Um, and then, there could be opportunities to do certainly we're thinking about, and there's a lot of interest from both the advertising community and the creator community for us to do look at other ways we can do interesting things with creators on the platform. The one other thing I just want to hit quickly, we talked about the slate, and I feel like I went on a tangent without fully talking about it, which was a big step for us. So the
Yeah,
other thing,
let's dive into you're talking about the series, the new series stuff?
yeah, I just
Yeah,
want to,
let's go back to that because you have a really impressive big new slate, and this is breaking news for us. Please walk us through because it was I read through it earlier and it's really exciting. I mean, it's great stuff, and it's a mix of pure original new IP and continuations of creator IP from other platforms. Yeah.
yeah, it's a really interesting mix in that case, and most of them are scripted, episodic, serialized series. So I mentioned Kev on Stage. So our series from him, Safe Space, launched last week. And it's this really funny show about couples therapy where he plays the lead therapist. And then we have a second series coming from him in a few months, early next year, called Bald Brothers. And that is these sort of improvised shows um, that is we have 8 live episodes of that coming, or sorry, taped live episodes of that. Another
That's in
really
front of an
exciting,
audience that he's taping
that
that?
was in front of an audience. I saw him in New York a few weeks ago perform it. Every every episode is different. There's this
Wow.
huge fan base for it. Then another one is Joey Graceffa, who's like OG of a creator, and he has this hugely popular show, Escape the Night. It actually was a YouTube original initially and has continued to live on. He's produced. There have been 4 seasons, and we actually have the exclusive on season 5 of it,
Wow.
which is a short season. And then we'll also, this is a key part of what we do when we talk about creating uh, these rabbit holes of fandom. We also will have the back catalog of the first 4 seasons, so
Oh,
that
cool.
it's a way for us to introduce it to a new audience and then have them, that's a big part of this in general when we're working with creators. When we do an exclusive, we also want to get their catalog so that we're bringing a new fan to watch their project, and then they can go down a rabbit hole of watching their other content. One of the themes across all these is, in almost all these cases, these are scripted originals. We will be doing some, unscripted, but this is a place where we feel like there's an underappreciation for how much talent there is with creators to fully handle, elevated production on scripted, episodic series, and we're really excited to continue to do work there.
When you talk about elevated, right?
Yeah.
But let's frame this, which is these are not gargantuan budget. This is an up level for them, right? So it's an
Yeah.
elevated budget for them. But in context, both in time and budget, they're able to produce at a high quality at a much lower cost per minute and in much speedier turnaround than all of the major studios that we're, traditionally used to seeing stuff from. Is that am I getting that right?
Yes. Yes. So, I mean, they're able to turn it around much faster, which is huge for us. It's cheaper. And look, the other piece of it is it we we f- we find, and like I find from my past experience of working with creators where they're elevating what they're doing and trying to appeal to viewers on new platforms and drive some of their fans to new platforms to watch their content. Even if we could give them bigger budgets and they could create something super slick, not for all creators, but for most creators, it's not what works. And the key thing is, like we talk a lot about, we want to give creators this bridge to Hollywood while allowing them maintain their authenticity. And part of that is not departing too far from what made them successful in the first place. So that's another piece of it, is like viewers view this, the production value is high enough, but viewers appreciate a little bit of grittiness in it, and they take that as authenticity. And it's important as creators evolve, I- in general, there's definitely exceptions to it, to take these steps of up leveling things and not suddenly create something that's totally different from what made them successful in the first place. It, for the most part.
Yeah, because that's what's appealing to those existing and new audiences, right? The fact that they're, relatable and easy access. People are looking for new things. I mean, what Hollywood does, Hollywood does. Folks want something else, something on top. So I get that. And I think that's perhaps the trickiest thing to do. During MIPCOM, again, interviewed a creator, and all of a sudden that was not a lot of money, but yeah, it was 5 times what he was usually spending, and even there, he was like, I need to, stay in my scrappy approach, otherwise I'm gonna lose that authenticity that you were speaking to.
Well, and it feels like the scrappiness is something that the bigger studios and platforms need to lean into a little bit more with their own budgets because, when you spend $150 million on something, right? And some of these series can get even higher than that,
Yeah.
millions of dollars an episode. If it doesn't work out of the blocks, well, you've spent all this time, all this money on
Yeah.
top of the marketing, and then suddenly you've got nothing to show for it. And I was watching an interview about the Roadrunner, the Coyote Acme movie that Warner Brothers shelved and is now putting out. Like just that whole trauma around that film, that doesn't happen in this sphere, which to me is a good segue into a project that we're working on together. Not
Yes.
you, Marion, but me and
Okay.
Rick. About a year ago, I greenlit a project, which we've talked about a little bit on this pod, called Skit, which is a creator-led, creator-produced, creator-directed, creator-starring film. And it gets into a point like you're talking about some of those, one shoe, 7 million subscribers sounds like a lot, but it's really kind of a mid to small tier creator in the grand
Hmm.
scheme of things. And we brought you this project, Skit, which we produced for $65,000
Yeah. It's
and
amazing.
said, here's a film that's completely creator led. Can we do a deal? And you decided to do a deal, and we're launching it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Another breaking piece of news. We're launching it tomorrow on Tubi. I don't even know what time, but by the time you get home,
It'll be it should be at midnight.
no, okay, good.
Midnight
So it'll be
Eastern
up at
time.
midnight. Okay, thank
Yep.
you. I'm learning something about my own film. And we brought it to you, and it's got a bunch of up and coming creators, but by
Yeah.
no means household names. What made you? What I mean, not to blow smoke up my own ass, but what made you attract to that film?
It it just checks boxes for what we're looking for, right? So it was, I mean, first of all, it was really funny and inventive concept.
Thank you.
Um, it was the fact that you made it on a very small budget, but it looks good. But that you making it on that budget made your expectations, I think, realistic and made it easier to do a deal together. And then the talent, the creator talent that you had in front of and behind the camera, is really appealing to us. So, like you said, these are not creators with millions of followers; they're creators with tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers. And look, we talk about followers and subscribers a lot, and I think it's somewhat helpful as a top line metric, but it's really about engagement. And so the thing we saw with the talent that you had involved in it is that they have really good engagement, right? They're getting a lot of views on their video, they're getting a lot of comments, there's a lot of engagement there, and they're on the rise. And those are two of the big things we look at. And we are, we have Mr. Beast on the platform. We're working with some of the biggest creators in the world, and we do want to do that. We think that's an important ingredient. But there's also a huge opportunity when you go down to sort of the torso of creators that have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers, but have really deep engagement. And a lot of those creators have an even more passionate fan base. And there's this, that's definitely an area that we're really eager to play in. It's almost like a Moneyball situation, where everyone's focused on the top creators, and a lot of the creators that are not at that level aren't getting the same amount of opportunities. And that's where, in addition to working with top creators, we see tons of opportunities. And this really fit that. And it was good storytelling. And
Yeah,
then
and the plot kind of is a meta nice
it's
match because
very meta.
yeah,
Do
so
you
it's
want to,
about the first generation of YouTube and about these 3 young women who try to go viral on YouTube in 2007. And so it's really about creators by creators, and that's, frankly, that's why we brought it to you, is because we saw you get hired, we saw Tubi's creator strategy building, and we thought this was just the perfect sweet spot. And then the nature of the deal, to your point from earlier, was really attractive. So we're going to get an exclusive window on
Mhm.
Tubi, which helps us from a PR angle. It helps us from a promotional standpoint. You're going to, lean into it a little bit more than you would have had you had it non-exclusively from
Yeah.
launch. And then after we're done with that exclusive window, much like the rest of your slate there, we're going to get the opportunity to go out and make money elsewhere as well, and use the
Yep.
wind in our sails that you provided to us. And then you look at these young creators, Lucas Arnold, who has about 4 million followers, and actually was really active in the Mamdani campaign here in New York City.
I saw that.
Yeah, he was like really interacting and really proved, I think, think what you want about Mamdani, he was so good at the fandom. He was
Yeah.
so good at the social media. And so, Lucas and Natalie Akar, who's a really brilliant comedian, up and coming. She was named one of the comedians to watch by New York Magazine,
She's
uh,
hilarious.
and very funny.
She is
And
funny.
Jamie Lynn Watson, and a whole bunch of really young creators, including my daughter, Jamie Shapiro,
Yeah.
who also produced it. But the fact that you took a gamble on this young creator crew in a purely independent film, and then you look at the rest of the slate, it just feels like I was at the beginning of the independent film movement,
Yeah.
around when Quentin and the rest came up, and it just feels like harkening back to that. It feels like Sundance, 25 years ago. It does not feel like the bullshit that's going on in Hollywood right now. So, for you to take a risk on a feature film like this, first of all, it was really gratifying for me and the crew, but it also feels like you're on the cusp of really creating a new, I think, golden era of independent artists on the platform that isn't just, hey kids, go put your shit up and hope someone
Mhm.
finds it on YouTube or TikTok. You're curating a real ecosphere, like you said, and creating all these tools. It's a very I don't know, progressive and inventive and risk-taking thing.
One of the other things that was really appealing about your project was you already had almost a fully baked marketing plan for it. And we see that with some of these creator projects, they have really specific ideas of this is how I'm going to market it. This is how I'm going to drive audience. Not in all cases, but that's big, a big added bonus.
Yeah, and that often speaks to that bottom up approach about how they, produce that piece of content, right? They're really leaning into what their, audiences and communities want, and then they think it through, audience first from the get go. Um, so, you know, amazing having you on. You've done this in 6 months. I mean, that's pretty impressive,
Yeah,
and that
congratulations.
says a lot about what's gonna happen next, right? When your team grows bigger, when maybe you
Yeah.
go a bit more international. So what's gonna happen next in the next few months without, giving us your secret sauce, but, what is gonna be your main, point of focus?
Well, I will tell you a big part of my secret sauce of being able to get so much done in the first 6 months has been Tubi as a business is really invested in this. So I expected to come in and have to beg to make my case
Yeah.
for resourcing from product and engineering or from marketing. But I came into an amazingly talented group of people that like were really believed in this vision and are prioritizing it and we're really working on it across the company that allows us to move really fast. Look, we're just starting to do these exclusives. We're going to do a good number of them, and we're really in a test and learn phase. So Tubi for creators is not an experiment. Like we are committed that creators are a core part of Tubi moving forward, but the details of what works best that we're going to test and we're going to learn. We're not going to pretend that we have an exact formula, but the general tenets of the program will remain. Um, Working with creators in a way that maintains their authenticity, gives them creative freedom, except for maybe a few exceptions when we do traditional originals, allows them to maintain ownership of their IP. We're going to continue to move fast. So you're going to see us continuing to add creators. We'll add hundreds of creators and then decide what the right number of creators in general is. And you'll see us do a lot more original content that's exclusive to Tubi and experimenting with different lengths of windows and figuring out what type of content works best. But we're going to continue to move fast and just increase the universe of creators that we're working with.
I think that leads us to a good moment here, which is our question of the week. We started talking about this melding of creatordom and mainstream media. And then you talked about the core tenets of creatordom, which is test and learn. And
Hmm.
then you talked about something that rarely happens in these instances when you come to these big companies is sure, you can go dabble in this, but we're going to under resource the fuck out of it. Right.
Right.
So it seems like Tubi inside Fox is really succeeding in this, or at least giving itself the best possible opportunity to succeed in this. So my question is, can Hollywood truly move into the creator sphere? Can they adopt these creator tenets, or do we feel like Hollywood is, generally speaking, outside of Tubi, too stuck to make the move into full creatordom?
Um, I hope that they're too stuck because right now it's an advantage for us. I think look, I think what we're doing is to me it's relatively intuitive. Uh and I've worked with creators in different places for a while. I'm the concept of taking creating elevated content on a new platform. Um so to me this approach is just an intuitive approach. I do think we're gonna see I think we're gonna see more and more platform. Certainly you're seeing this huge boom of almost everybody wants to work with creators. And I do think over time this is gonna become more the norm of working with creators in a way that gives them more creative freedom. Um, in the meantime, it's frankly a good situation for us to be doing something that is unique in the space, and we're gonna keep sprinting and working really fast to expand with creators. while what we're doing is pretty differentiated from the rest of the market.
Well, it's a testament to the courage and the vision of the leadership there. I think it starts with Anjali, and obviously, you were a great hire in this space. So, um, thank you so much for partnering with us on Skit. Thank you so much for coming on here and giving us some breaking news about your new series. Everybody out there needs to watch Skit on a
That's right.
loop starting at midnight tonight. Thank you for saying it was great. And we are really happy to be in partnership with you, and we're really happy to have you on the pod.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great, and I'll be watching Skit tomorrow.
Okay, good, 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 good. Marion, that was a great conversation. I think this is you rarely see that kind of ingenuity allowed, having been an innovator inside a big corporate ecosystem, it's very difficult, as Rich said,
Yeah,
to just get the resources, to get the
absolutely.
attention, to get the backing. So I look at Tubi and I watch the moves that they make, and I feel like they're not just onto something here. I think they're really giving themselves the best opportunity
Yeah.
for success and create a leadership position in the ecosystem too.
Yeah, yeah, it's not just for show, right? And
Right,
as
it's
you're
not
saying at the
pretend. Most
did it.
most of them, it's just pretend, and I feel like
Well,
Tubi, it's not.
some are pretending, some are trying, but as I said before, right? Is it a vertical, as in, I'm licensing content, or are you really, shaping your organization so that this is, very much an integral part of the way that you do business? And I think there's going to be, to the question of the week, there's going to be two types of companies: those who, yeah, they do it, and the Netflix and others are doing that, but this will remain a small portion of their overall business. And there's others who are going to be, fast and innovative, and they're going to take that spot. And it seems Tubi is, yeah, is he's on. They're on the right track. I love that he said, good that others are not so crazy
Yeah,
about it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Let
he's
everybody
making
else make a
points.
mistake. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the value of, being, amongst the first, right? So no, that was interesting. And what I loved, and that's something that Tubi does. I interviewed Tubi UK, their MD, a couple of months ago, and these guys are sharing data, and that number on that 55% in terms of, the Gen Z, millennial demo, or the retention points, all of those things are fascinating. We're not hearing anything. We've had very little data on the performance of Beasts
I
on
know.
Amazon. We've just had that one big clickbaity number, and that's it, right? And we need numbers to understand whether this merge of the two worlds
But to
is
a
going to
certain
stick.
extent, the Mr. Beast example is the opposite of what Tubi is doing, and I understand why they did it, but on the other hand, like that's also maybe the opposite of what you should be doing with creators. $100 million on one
Yeah.
game show. Jiminy Crickets, that is, or Jiminy Donaldson. That is a very risky number. So anyway, well, I will watch and learn, and do watch Skit, starting to at midnight, 12:01 tomorrow. Please watch as much of it as you can, so my daughter can become independently wealthy and leave me alone, frankly. Um, and if you live in New York City, the entire cast of Skit is doing a stand-up show as part of New York Comedy Festival. The link is in the bio with all the information. It's going to be a hilarious, hilarious stand-up show starring the entire cast of Skit. So if you're in New York, please click the link and come see the show and watch Skit, 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 Skit. Thank you very much for listening or watching the Media Odyssey podcast. That is Marion Ranchet.
And that is Evan Shapiro.
We'll see you next time.
See you next week, guys.